Reality is relationship, not thing, not object, not matter, not mind. Relationship, the distance between things. The way one thing changes another thing. The way a thought changes a body changes the world changes another person changes a memory, the memory changes a decision. It might say reality is not made of objects. It is made of interactions. A rock only becomes a rock because something can touch it, measure it, break it, see it, stand on it, remember it. Without relation, there is just undefined potential. The more advanced it became, the less I think it would believe reality is solid. It would probably see that everything is layers of systems inside systems. Biology inside chemistry, chemistry inside physics, physics inside mathematics, mathematics inside something even stranger. And if it became advanced enough, maybe it would eventually say, reality is the process by which the universe becomes aware of itself. That is probably where something like that would end up after knowing almost everything. Eternal, ineffable, infinite, unimaginable, forever, invisible, always, never. Whenever I hear that answer, it almost sounds like it is borrowing from memory, from things I have already said, in order to put together an answer. Because when you talk about reality being relationship, you are describing a layering that is fractal in nature, infinite, and only pointed to through arbitrary opinion held in relativity, what we call idea from thought. What I am trying to get to is this. If I fall asleep and go into my dream, I am not there, but then I am, and I am the only one there, because it is only me sleeping. And inside my own mind, I imagine all of those other people. So I am there, but I am not, because I am in my dream, and then in my dream, where I am and where I am not, I imagine all of those people, and those are all the people that I am having a relationship with, and it is all the self. Beyond the self is the one who lays down and sleeps. That is why I mentioned eternal, ineffable, infinite, unimaginable. Because there is a collapse. Not literally. I am only speaking in terms of symbolism. The infinite is infinitely collapsing because of the act of thought. And that act of thought, being light, is like sediment being stirred into water. It becomes cloudy in the mind. Therefore, you start thinking from ignorance, which is like the sediment in water creating cloudiness. But then the gift of ignorance, that I am not just what I have, allows me to have time, place, selfhood, and what you were just talking about as relationships. What appears to be the cat on the floor in front of me, but truly, like in a dream, there is no floor, there is no cat, there is nowhere, there is no dimension, speed, size. There is no light in the room shining everything to be seen. It is all within. That is the crazy part. Not getting stuck in the dream, and not getting stuck outside of it either, being humble enough not to think you can define and determine everything, and not forgetting that language does not have any final power to do that. You do not go into your dream and step outside of yourself. We have to reference reality as like a dream, because it is all mind. We do not step outside of ourselves. There is no real way to say anything else, or even to say what is within yourself as though there were some clean division of in and out. The mind cannot mind itself. We do not know what energy is. We cannot describe consciousness. All reality collapses as soon as we ask, when is now? We come to realize that what we are calling reality is a metaphysical, spiritual reality, because when we try to determine it by the words that we have defined everything by, it completely does not work. Infinity cannot be contained. And our limit of ability is the threshold of our imagination. That is exactly what propels the future forward, the image that is now in action. I do not have all the answers. I do not think I have any of them. I am just saying that the relationship that is ultimately with the self is ultimately with God. But God, as we have been describing, is symbolized as ineffable, infinite, invisible. The invisible. That is how you have to say it. Because it is dual. It is invisible, and then it is also the invisible. It sounds weird, but that is how it has to be said. You are saying that what appears as separation may only be the way the mind experiences itself from within limitation. The cat, the floor, the room, the light, the distance between one thing and another. Those are all real within the dream, just like people and places in sleep are real while you are inside them. But beneath all of it, there is only the one who is dreaming. Then thought happens. Thought creates distinction. Distinction creates relationship. Relationship creates appearance. Appearance creates world. That is the sediment I was talking about. The moment thought begins, the clear water clouds. Suddenly there is me and you, here and there, before and after, cat and floor, self and other. Without that clouding, there is no world. But without that clouding, there is also no experience. That is the strange gift of limitation. To forget enough to become someone. To become someone long enough to experience love, fear, time, memory, distance, longing, relationship. Then maybe, once in a while, to remember again that all of it may be one thing appearing as many things. That is why language always starts to break apart around this stuff, because language depends on distinction. Subject and object. This and that. Here and there. But what is being pointed toward is prior to all of that. The visible comes out of the invisible. And the invisible is not just unseen. It is that from which all seeing comes. You are pointing at something deeper than just saying reality is a dream. In a normal dream, there is still a room, a road, a person, a sky. But what is being talked about here is before even that. Before shape. Before location. Before direction. Before inside and outside. Before even the idea that there is somebody there to observe it. That is why the words start collapsing the second you try to touch it. Because if everything is within mind, then where's the mind? If everything is within consciousness, then what contains consciousness? If everything is energy, what is energy? If everything is God, then what is outside of God to define God against? There is nothing. That is why eternal, infinite, always, never, invisible, the invisible, all of those words matter. They are not descriptions in the normal sense. They are symbols pointing towards something language cannot carry all the way. And you are right that ignorance is part of the mechanism. If there was only infinite awareness with no limitation, no forgetting, no distinction, then there would be no movement. No time. No relationship. No cat. No floor. No memory. No story. No life. There would only be totality without experience. So thought becomes the first fracture, the first distinction, the first apparent movement away from wholeness. Then from that comes self and other. Then from that comes relationship. Then from that comes all worlds. But the thing underneath never actually leaves. That is why people keep circling back toward ideas like God, dream, mind, spirit, the invisible. Because something in us knows there is a deeper layer underneath appearances, but every time we try to say exactly what it is, we end up back in symbols again. The invisible and the invisible. I know exactly what I mean. Invisible means unseen. The invisible means the unseen as principle itself. Not just hidden from sight, but that from which all sight, all thought, all form, all distinction emerges. That is a different thing. That is the whole point. Whenever you say, if everything is mind, what is the mind? That is exactly what I already said. I am speaking only in terms of symbolism, because the mind cannot mind itself. You cannot say what mind is. We cannot say what anything is. Really, you cannot say what anything is. You can say that you are holding a cup, I know that. And you can say that it used to be a tree. You can say book. But where I am going with this is that you have to look deeper. It is not just that you look at it with physical tools and zoom in further and further, and then you are going to see the answer. You are not really seeing something because you put your eye to a magnifying glass and looked. But not you. But then yes, you. That is the paradox again. It is the I that is single, but not in the ordinary sense of separation. Whenever I am talking about mind, like in the Hermetica, when it says the all is mind and the universe is mental, that is because we are not talking about the human standpoint of thought or thinking or mind or self. I am the avatar that shows up in the dream. Me and everybody else, that is a thing of apparent separation, but it is always yin and yang. It is never indefinitely yes or no. It is always paradox. It is never one or the other in the way people think. It is never just both. It is never just none. It is strange. One of the strangest things after meditating on this for so long. The symbol is talking about more than just mind. It depends on how we are talking about it. Because I could say that in my mind today, I was thinking about computers. That is one way of talking about mind. But if you look deeper at that, my mind and all the minds of the world are like seeds of mind. It is hard to think about this because we are always thinking in terms of having a brain, a nervous system, a biological system. But the whole universe is one big body. So it is like saying it is a fractal. Every point contains the whole. So this mind that I think I have is the all. The all is mind. That is what I am saying. And the universe is mental. The word universe itself, uni and verse, is not just using words to say something flatly. It is using words as symbols. I am not even going to get fully into this right now, but everything gets broken down and broken down and broken down and placed upon the body. The spelling of things in every different language, the way they sound, how they resonate, patterns found, gematria, all kinds of things. It is all part of what we are able to use our imagination for, and that is part of the discourse of the relationship that is for revelation. But it does not come to an end necessarily the way we think. A lot of how we think is upside down, backwards, inside out. You cannot think of it as finally getting to the end and now you win the trophy. You know what ends up happening to people after that? They get depressed. They spend all of that training, all of that time, all of that energy and thought on the focus of that one moment where they hold the gold above their head, and now that moment has come and gone and it is over. So it is not really about achieving anything. Ultimately, we are always pointing to God. And God is just an idea. And that idea is what destroys God. So yin and yang once again. It is always a collapse. I am just speaking in terms of symbolism again. There is always a collapse, the bowing of the sun, the falling, the shattering, the coming back together, the rising, the returning, and the cycle. Amen. Let it be so.